Hey everyone, welcome to my first YouTube video. Like I said I was going to do from last week. Again, let me just say thank you to everyone who's decided to support me on this. I much appreciate. Now the first film that I'll be talking about today is a recent one released on Netflix called The Old Guard. Now initially this is a film I'd heard about. Obviously it's been out not too long, but it was one film that I'd heard about. I heard nothing but positive reviews, nothing but good stuff about it, and I just thought, do you know what, at some point I'm going to need to watch this film, especially as it has one of my favorite actresses in this modern time in Charlize Theron. So surprise, it's no surprise to anyone, and it's no surprise to like even my friends that I watched it about 3 or 4 times already within the space of 3 or 4 days. And I know that's, yeah, it shouldn't come as a surprise as I'm a movie freak anyway. So basically, to get into it anyway, obviously there is going to be spoilers. I know it's a bit of a late spoiler right now, but just to let you know, there'll be spoilers for what's happening in The Old Guard. Now, what the actual film is about is regarding a group of immortals who, for centuries, have been protecting the world. They've been protecting the world undercover, really, whilst not giving away their own secret identities. However, now that they've moved on to the modern world, they see that their identities are now under threat. They've seen that their thing are now under threat because whilst they were doing one job, they felt that they were being, they thought they had been set up anyway. They thought they had been set up by Chiwetel Ejiofor's character. I can't remember his name, to be honest. But essentially what happens in this film is they thought they were being set up, but at the same time they had now just discovered a new immortal, and a younger girl called Niall. And so what they were trying to do was, whilst protecting their identity, they have to protect this other new girl as well. So that's the basic premise. From usually, it's going to be a bit of a cliche, but you always have that corporation who wants to use their powers or use their abilities for their own selfish needs, their own selfish gain, profit. That's actually the base of the actual movie. This film was better than what I bloody expected. I didn't know what to expect. I really didn't, and had no idea. Even though I'd heard a lot of good things about it, I didn't know anything about the synopsis, about the plot. This was just before I watched the film. One of the reasons why I bloody love this film, anyway, and would definitely recommend, is because of the actual concept. Now, we've seen quite a few films that have delved into stuff like immortality, but I feel like it's never done it in a way like this. I feel like this film was, quite unique in terms of how you had a group of immortals who've been living for years, and these characters, what happens is, obviously the name immortal gives it away, but each time they die, their body heals. They basically come back to life, if anything, possibly stronger. It's very similar to, now I don't know if anybody knows this, but it's similar to, and to be fair, I'm going off a bit topic because it's going into a bit of superhero stuff, but it's similar to a villain called Doomsday, who in DC is a character that gets stronger every time you kill him. This is similar to how the Immortals work. Andy, played, I've forgotten the actual whole full name of Andy because it's quite long, but she is the leader of these Immortals, played by Charlize Theron. And it was interesting to see how a group of immortals could somehow become mortal. And like I said, it's very unsurprising to know that once certain people got hold of what they were doing, that they would always try to be onto it. It was a different twist on your usual immortal stuff anyway. But obviously you had your cliche with, like I was saying, the whole corporation wants to use them for greed, for profit. Now what happens in this film was Chiwetel Ejiofor's character, again I forgot some of the names anyway, he wanted to use some of their abilities because of what happened to his wife. who had apparently died 2 years prior to him trying to get these people for the job. And he thought that by attaining the abilities of these people, that he thought that it would be saving humanity, saving sickness, you know, people wouldn't have to suffer. But that wasn't the case. Obviously that just means that he was lied to by the people he thought he was working for at the time. One stupid villain anyway, who I didn't even rate. One of the few negatives in my opinion of that film. However, Chiwetel Ejiofor, one of my guys, everyone will know him from stuff like Inside Man, 2012, most recently Baron Mordo from the Doctor Strange films, and will also should be appearing in Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. But he did a very solid job. Now, as the film went on, I feel one of the best things that happened in this film, and I'd really enjoyed, was the chemistry between a lot of these characters as the plot of the film was going on. So Andy and the other crew members, I think it was it John? Mike? I think I got the name right here. I just don't even. Either way, let me see. I fucking can't remember the name, but I ain't got time to check that up again. But let me have a look. I've just completely forgotten their name. If I can find it, yada yada yada. Joe and Nikki, yeah. You got Joe and Nikki, these two gay couple anyway. So what happens was they found this other new immortal named Niall. She was working in the military front line. She had no idea, because what happened was she got killed in combat. She came back to life, but had no idea. Even one of her close friends in the army didn't believe her. So initially they wanted to send her to be tested to find out what's wrong. However, for the sake of protecting her, Andy, the group of the Immortals, had to literally went and kidnapped her from where she was, fucked up a couple guys, and took her away. Now, normally in these situations, you can understand if you're the person getting what do you call it? Getting kidnapped. So naturally, she fought back. She even got fucking shot straight in the head by Andy, you know, because she wanted to prove to her what she is, as she tried to escape. This led to another brawl that they had in the plane, because now naturally wasn't convinced about what was going on. She couldn't believe it. So when they went onto the plane, obviously they had a bit of a fall. They definitely had a bit of a falling out. But this wasn't even before one of the most epic things, which came back later on in the film. Now this was, you know, you always get one of those. What do you call it? You call it. Well, to be fair, I can't remember the name of what you call it. But basically, there was one scene inside the plane where Andy told her, told the driver, she's not going to shoot you. Then she goes, I will. Then just before she shoots him, or didn't shoot him, she told him to play dead in Russian, which she told Niall, do you speak Russian? But she didn't understand. And by that time, she'd already released Andy from her strap. Then, boy, what ensued was a fucking major beatdown in that plane. Andy didn't take no shit, is it? But obviously he's trying to teach her a lesson, show her go on. So then after she beat her and her bones come back into place, she kind of saw that Andy knew what she was talking about, and after told what's going to happen if she didn't go along with them in terms of, you know, being taken away, she reluctantly agreed to go. But even over the course of the film, she still wasn't convinced, and it's still very understandable so, and at times was still trying to run away. So that's something that continued to go through throughout the film until near the endish anyway. But it's very understandable to see why this girl would act the way she was. There was what happened after that scene? Yada yada yada. She went and met the rest of the crew. And that was a very interesting scene, because we got to learn a bit more about Andy's past. We learned that back in the day when they were discovered with one of her best friends called Win, They were discovered and they were killed many times by the people. You know, in those kind of times, what they'll do is, like, if they thought you were a witch or something like that, they would burn you at the stake. They tried to burn them, they tried to kill them in so many different ways. Didn't work because they were immortals. However, one of the most fucked up things that's affected Andy up until now was that her friend Wynn was put into a coffin, and knowing that they always come back, they chained her up, threw her into the river, where she would continue to come back alive, but she would continue to drown. Come back alive, but continue to drown. And to be fair, that's one fucked up way to go. Like, you're just gonna keep coming back to life, but you're gonna keep dying. And she was stuck there for almost 500 fucking years, which was nuts. This was something apparently that I don't remember them saying that they all dreamed about, but this is something that Nayo had a nightmare about, which woke up everybody. She didn't know what was going on, so everyone kind of filled her up on the history of that and the history of Andy, so she kind of knew what the situation was now. Yeah, so but by that time, after that, they had already been they were attacked during that time. They were attacked during that time by the organization trying to get their powers. And what we saw from then, after Andy had, because I think she had popped out anyway by that time. But by the time she came back, they had been attacked, and I forgot who it was. I think it was Booker that had just been killed initially for that time being anyway. But what we saw was one of the biggest John Wickish, without it being John Wick, scenes in history, when Andy went ham on those guys, and it was proper brutal. Axe, guns, whatever you want to call it. Like the guy said, I think Booker, when he came back alive, he said she's forgotten more ways to kill than these people will ever learn. And Nayo could not believe what was going on. That was one fucking mad scene. Eventually, we learned more about Nayo's character, who she had in her life, and you know what she'll be leaving alive, what she'll be leaving alone anyway. Fast forwarding on a bit further on, they eventually managed to find. Oh, what happened? No, after that scene, Joe and Nikki did manage to get captured. They got captured, so Andy couldn't save everyone, and they were tortured. They were tortured by this crook. For me, like I said, this guy who's a villain, for me, didn't really feel like a proper movie villain. To me, he felt like the kind of villain that would be in like a Jacqueline Wilson kind of book, to be fair. If you saw it in a Tracy Beaker kind of movie, he would be that kind of villain. He was the one thing, in my opinion, I couldn't really take seriously. He didn't have that corporate look. He just looked like I don't know. He just didn't have the look of a corporate character, in my opinion. I know it's a bit strange to say, but he just didn't have the look for me to take him seriously. If it was someone like maybe Ian Glenn, I think you guys know him. He's done Resident Evil. I think he done the old Tomb Raider. I think he's even in one of the new Batmans. One of the older Batman. I forgot if it's Titans. I forgot one of the new shoes, but I know he's one of the Black Batman. Someone like that would have pulled off this kind of corporate crook, corporate fiend, in such a damn quality way. This guy, nah, not for me. And this is one of the few drawbacks of the film. Anyway, fast forwarding even more, after initially Andy had agreed to let, what's her name, Nayo leave. She told her to dump the car, dump the gun. What happened was she went with Booker to the place to the place where they were being captured, but they didn't know exactly where they were. They saw Chiwetel Ejiofor's character. I forgot his name. However, what was I gonna say? However, what happened was, yeah, he was trying to explain why he did the way he did. Naturally, I mean, at some point during the film, you knew he wasn't the crook that they thought he was. He genuinely did feel like he was doing it for the right cause. So during that scene, we just realized that Booker had just betrayed them, and he shot her right right through the chest. And this is the scene where we knew that her personal immortality might be ending. You know, she wasn't bleeding out. She was bleeding out, sorry, wouldn't continue to bleed, and wasn't exactly, and they were wondering why she didn't tell anyone. But again, I guess she thought it was just her time to go. I guess she didn't want to scare anyone. And surprise, surprise, conveniently, what happened? You got the rest of the bad guys come in and take him away. They even bloody attacked my guys from behind and just left him there. It was at this point afterwards that Niall came back. Niall came back, and obviously she was filled up on the history of Andy. She was told what was going on, and it was then that we saw, literally, this is a girl that kind of like grew into her role right now, and actually went on a mad murder binge. She did go on a mad murder binge. Obviously tricked some of the guards because they didn't know she was immortal. Then when they found out, obviously they all tried to yada 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 capture her. Well, I think one of the funniest scenes in that section definitely was when I think it was Joel. Yeah, it was Joel's pissed off at Booker. Understandably so, the way he was pissed off at Booker, calling him a traitor and all of that because of what he had done, isn't it? That scene there, Joel for me was definitely one of the standout guys in that film. Him and even his partner, you know, so I'll give them massive credit. They were so funny. So Niall ends up finding them all, and even her had to kind of motivate Andy to even get off her ass. She was like, Andy, what, you made a promise, you've got to do this, yada yada yada. You can see that Andy was reluctant. So initially they all get out. We saw one hell of an action scene in that entire corridor, you know. And this is what I really enjoyed about the movie. It was just some of the actual choreography of the fight scenes was absolutely amazing, especially in that corridor. And some of the death scenes, like my man Nick got shot in the mouth, obviously came back to life. Andy, the way she was taking out quite a few guys with that axe, this film was brutal. Some of the kills were brutal. Let's not forget, one of the best kills in this film came from Joe, who was pissed off because I forgot the security guard's name. He's the one who shot Joe. Not Joe. Nikki. He's the one who shot Nikki in the mouth, which was quite brutal, to be honest. And if you saw that kill, my God, like I thought it was just like a regular kind of taekwondo throw over his back, but no, he shot him, and it's like he broke his back and his neck at the same time. The amount of times the way you guys know how I watch my movies and watch my scenes, I rewinded that one scene about 10 times because it was brutal. I posted it everywhere, and it was fucking fantastic. Now, what we saw after that was they eventually found the main guy. Like I said, he's a bit of a prick. But anyway, brave prick, and I didn't really rate his acting anyway. How they got rid of him was like the same thing that they did in the plane. Andy was like, "Do you speak Russian?" Niall was like, "No," but then she clocked what was going on, so she pretended to shoot Andy. The guy tried to shoot Andy as well. Tried to shoot Niall. Andy went and took that. I don't know what kind of axe that was. I forgot. It's like it's the immortal sign. Chucked a man into the neck. Andy comes and chucks this guy outside the window. She jumped with him, and the camera angle and her scream saying "shit" just made the whole scene look amazing. So just dropped onto the car, bruh. You just see how she's looking all disfigured, but then you get to see in slow motion her fingers coming back, her whole bones, because obviously she's immortal, they can heal from pretty much anything, so they healed. Oh, it was nuts. And then she was like, "Adios, motherfucker," or something like that, I can't remember. But this is a girl that turned from reluctant, she turned into an absolute badass by the end of the film now, and you know, I gotta give her credit. I gotta give credit to her and Charlize Theron. The chemistry between them. You got the character of Joe, who is played by, and it's like I thought it was him, but I didn't know. But it was definitely, what's this guy's name? Sorry, I've got the information. I am looking at Marwan Kazari. That's it. I just had to get it up. Marwan Kazari, who also played Jafar in Aladdin. So in case you think you recognize him, it's Jafar from Aladdin. So his chemistry with the other character, I thought it was there, and I feel this is one of the most important aspects in movies, to have the right chemistry with certain characters or all characters. Otherwise, no matter how good a film or the concept of the film is, it might not work. So initially, how the film ends pretty much was, because of Booker's betrayal, the whole team had to think about whether they should accept him back or not. Apparently now was just saying because he said sorry, they could have left it, but that wasn't enough for Andy. Now, although Andy was still soft on him, you know, she could tell that she cares about him anyway. But he got sentenced to like an 100-year exile. So he's gonna be alone for 100 years, which is nuts. Okay, I know they've been living for centuries, but as an exile from the team, at least, you know, during that time before you had each other, but now you're gonna be all alone. So after that, I think they all went about their own business. Niall had to reluctantly kind of leave her family, and so they had to, you know, let the family know that she was dead, even though she wasn't, and she wasn't happy, but she kind of understood the gravity of the situation. Yeah, and also Chiwetel Ejiofor's character has agreed to help them, in case, like they were saying, leaving tracks, in case they leave tracks, so he's gonna be supporting them, you know. So that's what Charlize Theron's character said, Andy, what he's gonna have to do. Now, the one thing I was not expecting was that end credit scene, and I'm sure anyone that does see it or will see it, please watch that credit scene. And yet again, I know I spoiled the whole thing, this is a spoiler, but that end credit of where Gwyn, her best friend from before, popped up in Booker's yard. And she was just like, hey Booker, so nice to meet you. Nah, that one just got me. I couldn't believe what I watched. And I cannot now wait for the sequel. There has to be a sequel. The demand is high. I'm sure everyone would have seen that. Anyone who did would know that there should be, you know. So I, for one, cannot wait for that. But yeah, I mean, after watching the film back many times, or 3 or 4 times, as you know, I've already seen. I just think I'm gonna give I reckon most people might give it like a 6.5 or something. However, for me, I'm giving the film no less than a 7. I think it's that good. No less than 7, but I think I'm gonna push it up to an 8. It might sound reckless, but I think the film was that good, especially when you think it's just a Netflix film. And yeah, like I said, one of the few drawbacks I think was similar to like Marvel's old villain problem. I didn't think that guy, he himself didn't do it for me. You always like to have someone who would do the corporate bullshit, yeah, pull the strings, but it would be good if they can get a bit of action, you know. You wanted to have a bit of a physical threat, and if anything, it was his right hand man. What was his name? If anyone can let me know what his name was, I can't believe it. I just can't bother to search right now. But he seemed to be the main guy. But yeah, like I said, this guy just didn't do it for me as a villain, and I can't really think of too many negatives. I felt the pacing of the film was pretty good. I think they had good story arcs for each of the characters. We got to eventually, as the film progressed, we got to learn more about the history of these people. They talked about where they came from, how they met, when they met, which I thought was definitely good, without it kind of spoiling what the current story is. Then this is something as to why I really enjoyed this movie. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I would highly recommend you guys watch. But yeah, I mean, as for now, listen, like I said, I'm going to give this film at least an 8 out of 10, no less than 7. And I think I'm going to have to go watch might watch it again. As you guys know how I do. So listen, I've thoroughly enjoyed this film. I hope you guys will enjoy it, because I do recognize if you haven't watched it. Please let me know what you guys think anyway. What do you think? Do you agree with any of the points that I've made? Do you not agree with any points that I've made? Do you think there's stuff that I've missed out that I should have been more aware of? Please guys, if you don't mind, just let me know. Let me know in the comment section. Please like and subscribe, and I'm looking to do more of these videos. I'm looking to do more of these videos with more content, not just on movies but on video games as well. And guys, listen, you take it easy and stay safe. I'll catch you guys soon.